welcome back to the channel. The book that I'm going to share with you today is called I'll Be Gone in the Dark, One Woman's Obsessive Search for the Golden State Killer by Michelle McNamara. I actually decided to read this one after watching the true crime series of the same name on HBO Max maybe a year or so ago, and y'all know I love me some true crime. It lulls me to sleep like a little baby. What I enjoyed about this book was that McNamara folded in some of her own life story along the way to parallel what she experienced while the case for the Golden State Killer was in full swing. There's even a section of photos in the middle showing us the people related to the case, but also a few of her during the research and writing process. I thought that was extra sweet considering what I learned before I started reading the book. Now, I'm not really sure how to navigate spoilers for this one since it's nonfiction and it's all available online for anyone to search, so I'm just gonna let whatever falls out of my mouth fall right on out. I did find out that in 2016, I believe, McNamara passed away from an accidental opioid overdose on top of an undiagnosed heart condition before this asshole was caught. And that breaks my heart for so many reasons. Because she also not only left behind a devastated husband, but also a very young daughter. What kept this book from falling apart after her death is that her assistant and another friend worked together to compile her notes and include some content she'd already prepared for other articles. They really did keep her voice going, even when she wasn't there to do it herself. We also get an afterword from her husband, Patton Oswalt, and I just love that he did that for her. Y'all, this book was heavy. Like, heavy. I could not ever read more than one chapter at a time because each one detailed, and I do mean detailed, what this man did to his victims. There was one chapter, for instance, that detailed the life and death of one woman who had a teenage daughter. The daughter was kind of a brat one day, and then when her mother tried to put her foot down about something, the daughter's response was something like, "Why don't you just get the hell out of my life?" And that was the last thing she ever said to her mother before she found out that her mother was murdered. Now, listen, I am someone who, more often than not, without much work really, can put myself in the position of whatever character, or in this case, a real person that I'm reading about. So when I saw what the daughter's last words were to her mother, I immediately felt guilty, like I had said it to my own mother, and that was tough. It's instances like this and so many others that I absolutely appreciated about this book. We really understand how much of an impact this predator had on the communities that he terrorized. People changed how they interacted with each other and how they lived their own lives. We see how all-consuming the investigation was for the many officials who spent sometimes their entire lives, in some cases, trying to find this guy. And I've read a ton of true crime. Like, I started reading it in elementary school, and bless my dear mother for not thinking I was a psychopath and keeping me from reading that stuff, because reading true crime all those years ago really did further mold my love of reading. One true crime book I read maybe, I think last year, was called Zodiac by Robert Graysmith, the book that actually inspired the Zodiac movie with Robert Downey Jr. and Jake Gyllenhaal and Mark Ruffalo and a ton of really great actors. And I thought the book was fine, but it often read like a textbook. I'm telling you all of that because while this is a true crime book about an infamous serial killer also, it really read more like a novel. The people McNamara talks about here feel like characters that have fully developed existences. I know they are real people, but it wasn't a clinical exploration that you'd maybe find in a scientific journal or something. I felt a real connection to everyone pulled into this terrifying reality. McNamara doesn't just explain the assaults, she gives us context and the situations these victims lived in before and after the attacks, if they survived. Like I said earlier, she includes actual pictures of them in the middle of the book, and that made these stories feel all the more real. And I know that's exactly what she was hoping to do. She wanted to help. She wanted them to not be forgotten. So, with that, my recommendation for I'll Be Gone in the Dark is minimum try it. But if you're like me, I'd say devour it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, but true crime ain't for everyone, and I understand that. This one read more like In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. McNamara had such a satisfying way of telling a story, and I wish she were still around to keep us entertained. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope to see you in the next one. Now, go read something.